Hi everybody, it's Sunday, and Sunday is sauce day at my house. So today I'm going to be showing you how to do my classic Sicilian red sauce. And I'm making enough for a meal, and another day we'll get into making sauce in quantity to freeze. We're going to do enough for today, today's meal. So along with the Sicilian red sauce, I'm also going to be showing you how to do stuffed Italian peppers. And that all ties in together, so I figured why not do both in the same video. So let's get started. We're going to start with cooking on, I have an induction machine here that I cook on for my displays and my demos, rather than back and forth to the stove. So if you have one, fantastic. If not, I strongly urge you to look into getting one. They're not that terribly expensive. Mine came with this pan through a specific company, and they're very helpful to have because you don't have all the stove going and the heat going in the kitchen when you don't have to. You can use the induction plate, and it works great. I'm going to be simmering sauce, so I don't need to take up the room on the stove for that. I can be simmering over here, and at the stove I can be doing other things and get the rest of the meal started. But so for now, we're going to start with a good healthy 3 turns of good extra virgin olive oil in the bottom of your pan. And I'm going to start my induction pan on medium because we're going to get the onions in there and all the seasonings and everything. Once we get set, I'll drop it back down. But for now, we're going to start at medium. Get that oil nice and hot. And I would take decent sized onion. I'm only making enough sauce for, as I said, this meal. But normally I would use that whole onion in making my, my sauce. So we're going to put some cuts into here so we get some good dice on this. Not everybody likes to, bite into a hunk of onion. I don't mind. But I think it's best to use a good dice on this. That goes right into your oil. You want to hear that nice sizzle. Make sure that's starting. To that, I'm going to add just a little bit of salt. I used some sea salt just to sweat those onions, draw out the sweetness. I wait a little bit to put the garlic in because I don't want it to burn. So we're going to let those sweat just a little bit, but we're going to add a teaspoon of fresh minced garlic, and I've already minced it. Then I've separated it, one for the sauce and one for the ground meat for the peppers. Okay, so your onions are going. To that, I'm going to add a palmful of oregano, and we're going to wake it up, as we always do, between palms of our hands. Oh, smells beautiful. I've got some Old Bay. I'm going to go half on that as well and save the other half for the meat. I've got black pepper and crushed red pepper. Half again. The rest will go into the meat. So that's going. Get that stirring up a little bit. And yeah, those are softening nicely. Juices are coming out. Beautiful. So now we can add half of the garlic that I minced earlier. The rest will be for the meat with the rest of the seasoning. This is how I start the base of my sauce. A little bit of fresh basil. I saved most of that for after as well. But I've got some beautiful fresh basil. Got a large plant out on the pergola patio from the farmer's market yesterday. So I've got my little herb garden starting with that and my parsley. Take a little bit, add it to the onions. Put that level of flavor in the sauce. right from the start. Okay, so those onions are all sweated out. We're going to turn this down to low. We've also got to keep warm on here, which is really nice. But the low is my simmer, and that'll be perfect for the sauce. The first thing I want to do is add a can. This is a 28-ounce can of organic crushed tomatoes with garlic and basil. Add that in there. To that, you will add 1 can of water. Next, 1 can of paste. This is just your small can of paste. Paste comes in various sizes, but for the most part, you're going to find it this size, and this is what we need for this size meal. And you're going to, this is very thick, very concentrated, and this is what is going to thicken your sauce as it reduces. 1 can of water to the paste as well. Okay. Next, a good sweet Cabernet, table wine, whatever you prefer. Not a real dry red wine. You want a sweet wine for this. And I go, like I said, we don't measure at my house, but for all intents and purposes, I would say a half a cup, couple turns. And that's going to bring some sweetness out in your wine without having, or in your sauce, without having to add the sugar to it. Because I've got some sugar in my sauce. And this is one of my containers thawed out from the freezer. I will make a large batch of homemade sauce and keep it all in the freezer, so when I need it, I've got one. So this will stretch my new base of sauce quite far. And I always like to try to take some of my already made sauce and add it to the new sauce, so it always tastes pretty much the same. This has got everything in it. I go through the Ninja and it's got garlic and the basil and parsley and onions, and everything goes in the Ninja, so it's a smooth sauce. So we take a quart of my homemade sauce that I've already made, add it in, so they all marry together. Okay, there's that. And stir. Now you've got water in here and wine in here, so take your time. Don't stir like crazy. It'll be all over the place. You don't want that on your induction heater or induction plate because it's going to burn. And you'd have to shut it all off and start over. So you want to be a little careful at this point. Ooh, already starting to smell wonderful. Now the crushed tomatoes lend you a few chunks of tomato in there to keep that freshness. Plus, I always add a little secret ingredient as well. 1 fresh, beautiful beefsteak from the farmer's market. Okay, so I would take half of this. Isn't that a beauty? Look at that. The rest is going to be for tomato sandwiches. Set that aside. We're going to turn it. Now, here's a trick I wanted to show y'all. When you put your cutting board down on your surface, a lot of times on a good, shiny or glossy or non-textured surface, you'll get a lot of sliding and slippage. You don't want that when you've got a chef's knife in your hand. So wet a paper towel, just dampen it, set it down, and once you put that on there, your board is perfectly secure. Your hands and fingers are safe. Okay? So, we're going to start on skin side. No, I don't remove the skin. When I'm adding a fresh tomato, I want a fresh tomato. So I take up all of my slices all the way across, turn it, and come back down 2, maybe 3 times. It's going to depend on the size of your beautiful beefsteak. This was actually a pink lady, one of my all-time favorite fresh ground tomatoes. This adds the season's freshness to your sauce. It's just one. And that'll break down as it's cooking as well. Get going. Oh, it already smells luscious. All of our seasonings are in there, our spices are in there. And now I will take one whole sprig. You don't want the stalk. It's very tough and woody on fresh basil. Oh, it smells so awesome. Give it a little chop. You don't want to go crazy and chop like crazy and bruise it terribly. You just want to open up that fragrant, beautiful basil licoricey smell. Take that, drop that in as well. To the next layer, you're going to do more in your meat. But if you're just making sauce, you want that freshness right in your sauce. Now this is going to go on simmer for at least an hour. And no, I'm not kidding. Sauce is not Italian sauce unless it's simmered at least a minimum of 1 hour. So you'll set your timer. 1 hour. There it is. Okay. So now you'll clean your area off, and when we come back, I'm going to show you how to put together everything you need for the meat portion of your stuffed peppers. But this is homemade sauce. In effect, you can add other things. You can put bones in from, say you have ribs or the heel of a roast beef. You could put that in there. To marry, you can take some of the meatballs that we made and froze for later and drop those in there frozen and let them gradually come to temperature, and they'll grab all that sauce as they thaw. Beautiful idea. But if you don't want any meat sauce to it, you can do a basic red sauce, but that's it. Not that terribly difficult. When it gets a little further on, I'll add the Parmesan cheese. It's a little soon to add that now. And so we'll top that off after we're done with the meat. So when I come back, we will be going over the meat portion of your stuffed peppers. Okay? Okay, so next step is getting our meat ready for our stuffed peppers. And I've diced up another quarter of that beautiful sweet Vidalia onion that I bought at the market. So there's that. And this pan is warm, but I wanted you to be able to see what I'm doing, so it's going to go back on the stove for these to sweat out. And here is the garlic. You start the steps almost the same for the meat as you do the sauce. So once the meat is in place, I'm going to show you all the seasonings added to that, and the basil, and a little bit of Parmesan. And we're also going to quickly cook a cup of rice, because some of that's got to go into the peppers. So when I get back, I'll be dropping in a pound of lean ground beef and a pound of mild sweet Italian sausage, both from the butcher, straight from the butcher. So it's a pound of each, and we're going to brown that, add all of the same spices to it and seasonings, and once that's browned, when I come back, I will show you how to get these peppers stuffed. Welcome back to The Family Eats. You're in the kitchen with Vita this Sunday, and we're doing our Sicilian red sauce. That's simmering away. We've browned our meat. We've cooked our rice, and actually to my white rice, I also added a 1/8 cup of different multicolored quinoa to it. It's just a little added texture that I like with my rice rather than just plain white rice. And we've got 3 beautiful dark green bell peppers that I got from the farmer's market yesterday. They're gorgeous. So let's get together here and get our peppers stuffed. First thing we're going to do is, when you pick out your peppers, try to pick out a 4 bulb base. They stand a lot easier than a 3 bulbed base. It depends on how many you need to do. I do 1 pepper per person, not necessarily that they have to eat this whole pepper once it's done. A lot of times I'll cut mine down the middle once it's on my plate and put half of it aside on its side for a lunch. My husband, on the other hand, will eat a whole stuffed pepper. It's just going to vary with your people that you're having at the table that day. I opted to do 3 rather than have a lot of leftovers that I don't need to do, but I wanted the demo for you. So you're going to take your pepper, they're all washed, and you're going to, if you can watch here, we're going to leave the stems on if they're there. If they're not, like this one, it's okay, but we're going to come back straight down and cut that beautiful flower daisy off and save it, because we're going to top it. And you're going to take all of the inside guts of the pepper. I like to take some of these seeds, not a lot of them, but a little bit, and drop them right into the sauce. There's one of my little secrets. So we take out all of the white membrane carefully. You want a good, firm, fresh pepper. You don't want anything that's really overly ripe or starting to wrinkle, because you want it to have some stability. So the more of the white veins that you take out, the less gassy your pepper will be. If that doesn't matter to you, I guess leave in what you want. I like mine removed. So this is the shell that you're going to be seeing. And we're going to stuff it with a spoon of meat, a spoon of rice, maybe a little bit more meat on top. And we're going to place it inside our simmering sauce and put that cover right back on to help keep everything in place and not constantly spilling out. If you cut them correctly, you can get that to happen. If it happens to rip, not a big deal. It'll still sit up on there. So, there's our first one. We'll do that again. There's your ring you're going to save. Reach in with your fingers into these crevices. Just twist real gently. Move your fingers around, not to rip the sides of the pepper. Grab those membrane in there so you come out with a full ball, just like this. Keep a bag close by for all of your wastes that you're creating, your fresh vegetables, instead of running back and forth to the sink. And I never want to see anybody running back and forth to the waste paper basket when you're cooking. Your hands should be clean in between each and every time you do a step. If you're working with meat, you wash your hands before you start with the meat. You wash your hands very thoroughly after the meat. You don't want any cross-contamination, make your family sick. Another. So, we've got our 3 beautiful peppers ready here. And in just a minute, we're going to stuff them. Now this one broke differently, you see? So, carefully take your knife, cut around the hard stem, leaving, and push out and in whichever way releases that better. Using a smaller knife might have been the smarter way. Either way, we're here at the same point. Turn and twist. Take those guts out. I remove the membrane. It's easy. So don't be intimidated by, oh my gosh, Italian stuffed peppers? No, I go out for that. No need. You can do this. Put on some music, pour a glass of wine, and don't be afraid to just jump in. Okay, so I'm going to do this large boy first because he'll fit into the sauce and take up the most room, so I want to make sure I have enough room. That's why I opted for my square saucepan rather than my round one. Gives me a little bit more secure of a corner for each one of the peppers. Oh, my sauce is smelling mighty good. Kitchen is smelling mighty good. And even though you've got this on simmer, and you can probably see the steam, you still want to come by and give it a stir until your peppers are in there. Then you're going to have to grab something a little smaller and go in between the peppers to keep that sauce from sticking. Nothing worse than burnt sauce. And what a horrible waste that would be. Okay, so next, this is our beautiful meat that we browned, and onions and all our seasonings, and I put a little bit of quinoa in there as well. And you're going to take a spoon. I'm going to do one. Take your meat, cover the bottom. Take your beautiful rice and quinoa, or just rice, depending on what you've chosen. Put that in there, spread it around. And you judge how heavy or light you want the starch to be in there. Always save a little room for a little more meat on top. You line up your top. Just the tips of the pepper, you're going to take it and place it right in a corner. Place the lid on top. Continue with the rest of your peppers. Once the peppers are all in there, you're going to take a small dipper and put one little dipper of sauce over each pepper. So all that sauce gets down in there and marries with the meat and the rice and cooks evenly. So when we come back, I will show you all of the peppers in place, and we'll also show you when one is done, we'll take it out and plate it, and you see just how easy this meal was to put together. Now you're going to want to keep this on a little bit higher than low, just so those peppers cook through, because they're good solid peppers. You don't want them too al dente. I like mine with a little bite to them. Some people like them completely softened. I don't, because they tend to fall apart. So I would turn your heat up just a little bit, but really keep an eye on this. And when we come back, as I said, I will show you how beautiful these cooked. I would say let them go on low to medium, or a low medium level for a good 30 minutes and check them. Okay, we'll see you back in just a little bit. Well, these beautiful stuffed peppers and red Sicilian tomato sauce has been cooking, and I let it go a good 35 minutes on my induction burner here, and they smell wonderful. I so wish you could smell how good this smells in this house, and I cannot wait to taste this meal. Alright, so I'm going to show you how these look when done, and how to plate it. Now you might want to think about, while they're cooking, to put together a little side dish of either maybe some pasta or some ziti. I would recommend some pasta though, just to have a little side dish. That's the Italian tradition. So I'm going to take one of these babies out. And let's hold our breath that it stays together on camera. Oh my goodness. Now you remove this lid and serve it on its side. All that Hamburg and Parmesan and everything has melted. The pepper is nice and soft. I'm going to show you how I like to dress it before it goes to the table with some fresh parm on top. A simple basil leaf. And there you have it. Can't you just almost taste this? It is so tender and delicate. Once you've got the parm on it, take a little bit of your beautiful sauce that you've made and drop a little bit on top, a little bit down the side, so you get a bite of pepper, Hamburg, rice, and sauce in every dish, or I mean every spoon, sorry. And I would serve it with some crusty Italian bread and a side of pasta, and you have made your family a beautiful, wholesome dinner that they'll beg for again and again. Please don't forget to watch to the end of the video and get the Family Eats email address to request the written instructions and grocery list for this beautiful dish. And if you don't need to make the stuffed peppers and you just want the red sauce, that recipe will be there as well for you. I thank you for joining us. You've been in the kitchen with Vita. I'll see you again next time.